Good morning, my bucket pond friends and family. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for inviting me into your screens again today. Before we get started with our nice new Paludarium, I want to give a shout out to our buddy Jeff Kiesner. Man, I got your name wrong in the shout outs. I even mispronounced it. I misspelled it. I feel horrible. But you were really cool about it, and I appreciate that chill attitude. So thank you, Jeff. So today we're going to build a nice new Paludarium, and we're going to use this bent piece of plexiglass to make a divider. A Paludarium has a land section and a water section, so it's kind of a 50-50 terrarium aquarium. In this project, we are going to use some oak leaves. That's right. We've used oak leaves in our previous Paludariums, and they've come out really nice. We're also going to use some black cow, composted cow manure, as well as some red lava rock, and of course, some nice marble chunks. Yeah, some nice white stone. We're also going to include water samples from two different aquariums. This is from the crayfish tank that we don't show on the channel. It's a bit cloudy right now, but that's because it is undergoing a bacterial bloom, and that's fine. It won't hurt anything. It's essentially green water and some beneficial bacteria as well as some other microbes. We're also going to include samples from the Bowfront Aquarium, which you guys have seen on the channel a couple times. The water is much clearer, and both come with bladder snails and some various duckweeds. We mostly work with Lemna minor and mud midget. Mud midget is really cool if you've never heard of it. It's a really interesting little spiky duckweed. You may notice that I don't have my gloves on today, and that's fine. This was built on my day off, so I don't have to worry too much. I haven't interacted with any chemicals in at least 12 or 14 hours. And we're going to toss our leaves in there. This is the basic starting point of our substrate. Now, we have used these same leaves, I believe they are oak leaves, in our previous Paludariums, and they have come out really nice. So I'm trying to emulate those builds to take what we've learned, what worked, and apply that to this new project. We want to make a taller island, and to do that, we're going to use our black cow and our plexiglass divider. Now, I actually made this out of a scrap of plexiglass. I heated it up and bent it into this shape, and I'm pretty proud of that. And we're going to see if it's going to fit into the jar. It's bent just enough to fit in there, and I was really worried that it might break and cut my hand. But no, we made it in there perfectly. Yeah. So we're going to build a pseudo Wallstad style Paludarium here. And by that, I mean we're going to have some compost at the bottom of the jar underneath some sand. It's going to be covered by sand, which will prevent small particles from floating around, while allowing our plants, moss, and microfauna to access all the goodies that come with having some compost in the project. You might be saying, oh, black cow, that's really nasty. Why would you use that? But in reality, if you grew up around dairies, if you know anything about the milk industry, you'd be surprised, what you really get in a gallon of milk. So to me, interacting with this black cow isn't much different. And here's our sand that we're going to use. I wish that I would have let it dry after rinsing it because dry sand is generally easier to work with. But it's fine. We're just going to throw in a few handfuls, nothing to it. And we're going to fast forward just a little. There we go. Yeah. One benefit of these large jars is I can fit my entire hand in there. And this is a large pickle jar. Most people would just throw these away, but it's a perfectly viable jar aquarium. You can get them for really cheap, and they come full of delicious pickles. So it's a win-win. You get a nice new aquarium, a jar of pickles, like maybe $8 where I live. It's not bad. But we're going to pack down that sand and try to eliminate any gas pockets that may develop. There we go. Now, this is an outdoor build. I'm still working on this setup. You may see some glare and things. And we're also going to try something new here in 2024. I want to be on camera as we build the projects. Now, unfortunately, the audio got ruined by a motorcycle enthusiast as well as some gunshots out here in the country. And I don't really want to put that on the channel. So I'm going to have to do the dubbed audio right now. But we lost a bit of the footage, and essentially all I did was throw in a small layer of marble chunks to help wedge that divider there into position. Now, these marble chunks here, they will mostly be beneath the moss. We're going to include quite a bit of moss in this project, but they're more of a foundational layer, but they will help to modify the water parameters and to keep things from getting too acidic due to that black cow being included in the project. Overall, marble chunks are beneficial. Our snails enjoy them. Though be warned, do not use marble in an aquarium unless you are prepared for the slow release of calcium into your water. I believe that marble is essentially calcium bicarbonate, if I remember correctly, and it will, modify the parameters of your water. So we're also going to include some red lava rock. And if you're familiar with this hobby or with aquariums in general, you're probably thinking that it's for beneficial bacteria. And that is a side effect. The pitted, rough surface of the lava rock does provide extra surface area for beneficial bacteria to grow. But here in this particular project, I am using lava rock because I need to build up that backside. I need to build up the island. And lava rock just happens to be a readily available, very low weight rock that we can use for this project. And we're just going to pile some up here within our divider. I hope that you guys can see this. When I was building it, I was behind the jar, so my angle was quite a bit different. But a few of you guys mentioned that maybe I should be on camera when we're doing the builds, and I'm happy to comply, though I don't think that you meant in this particular way. But there we go. We have a nice foundation for our island, and it looks like our divider is going to hold up. It's going to stand there. I was very worried about that. And, I was brainstorming different ways that we could do this. We could build an island without having to just pile up a massive amount of rocks in the jar. And we've done it. This bent piece of plexiglass was the perfect solution. I didn't have to glue it in. I didn't have to use any silicone or anything like that. It should be completely water safe, and I'm very happy about that. So we're going to put a bit of black cow up here on top to act as like our topsoil in the island portion. That's right. And now we're going to have to look around and find some moss. So I'm going to wander off into the distance. I'm going to stutter a little bit, and then we'll wander back up. And we have a nice, lovely handful of moss. We have two different types here. We have what I believe is hypnomoss that we use in most of our projects. We know that it will grow underwater, and it does very well in our sealed ecospheres. Otherwise, we have this unidentified moss, which I'm sure it's pillow moss or something. It's not exactly uncommon, but I just don't happen to know the name for it. But I found this growing near the oasis, and I thought, why not include that? We have a little notification on our phone. Thanks, Clay. That's Clay Wise, one of our patrons, commenting on a post on the brand new Bucket Ponds Facebook group. That's right, we have a Facebook page, but now I'm kind of leaning in the direction of a Facebook group because I want you guys to be able to post your pictures and stuff. And I'll probably just leave that notification in. I hope you don't mind. But we're going to put our moss up here. That unknown moss, I'm not sure if it will grow underwater, and I don't want to waste it on an experiment exactly like that. So we're going to put most of this unknown moss up here at the surface. This will be our land mass up top here. And I think it'll look really cool. We're going to throw a little bit of soil from the oasis in here as well to try to get some springtails, maybe even some small millipedes or something. I want to have some land-dwelling creatures in this project. I'm aware that their island will be somewhat small, but we're also going to include duckweed in here. And the duckweed will act as an additional land mass for them to crawl on, forage and things like that. And now we're going to use most of our hypnomoss down below. I thought about gluing this to the back wall, to the divider that we made, but I decided not to. I don't want to include too many artificial elements in a project like this. We're going to add a few additional marble chunks to help pin those moss sheets down to the bottom. This moss will float. It will float around and make a big mess. So we're going to try to avoid that and just kind of pin it down to the bottom. But I think this looks really cool, and as it is, we could probably run this as a terrarium and still have a lot of fun. But I don't have much luck with terrariums. I don't know. I'm an aquarium guy, but I seem to be a jar aquarium guy. Very important distinction. But I seem to be a jar paludarium guy. That's right. I'm still finding my place in the hobby. So we're going to start with these samples from the crayfish aquarium. And this is a little tricky. Wish me luck. But these samples come with, the oils and the scents that crayfish emit, which will confuse our bladder snails and encourage them to breed more quickly. They will detect these scents and they will be convinced that there are predators in this ecosystem. And the response to predators is, hey, let's breed. Let's breed a whole bunch. It might sound kind of cruel, but, to lower the chances of you being eaten, just make more of yourselves. Maybe the other guy will get eaten. And that's how they operate. Now we're going to include samples from the Bowfront Aquarium. And please keep in mind, in these samples, I have included Florida Mud Midget, Lemna Minor, and Bladderwort, which we've seen in our previous project that grew up on the glass. It was really cool. So we've got live water in here. Everything in here is live. And yeah, the tank might look like a muddy mess right now, but that's pretty common with our last few ecospheres in 2023. Typically, we would do a water change during setup, and we would adjust things a bit. But this water is alive, and it's very important to me. There's also quite a bit of green water in here, which you will see in the near future. But that green water will produce oxygen, the moss will produce oxygen. Everything in here is going to work in tandem to create a beautiful, self-sustaining ecosystem. And here we are about 5 days later. We have brought the jar inside. We have kept it lit nicely, and we are preparing to seal it up. But first, I need to do a little bit more maintenance. I want to add just a couple more things to really get this jar rolling. As it is, though, things look good. The water has cleared a bit. It's still a little cloudy, but again, I'm not worried about that. Cloudy water is not the end of the world. And in some ways, it may be beneficial. I want the water to be alive. I want to include as many different types of bacteria and plants and microbes in here as possible to encourage a diverse ecosystem to develop. Our ultimate goal is to keep this jar sealed for a decade, maybe more, and to watch everything develop to see what happens. I know that we can raise bladder snails in a closed jar for up to 3 years. So I think that and that was our first project that we made 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that with this setup, with this little island landmass here, with this ample water portion, we have the best of both worlds. We're going to have a lot of oxygen-producing plants and algae in this project. Already, I can see that we need to drain a little water off of here. And I'm not doing a water change like you might think. I'm actually removing a bit of water because I want to add something else. I want to add some of our detritus worms. That's right, our little white wiggling worms that you guys have seen before. I love them. I love them to death, and they will help to break down the organic material that came in with the moss. And with any luck, they will sustain themselves here in the long term, and they'll be an important part of this ecosystem. There's going to be a lot of food in here, especially that black cow compost. That's like a slow release food item. Think of that like the refrigerator in the apartment that is our paludarium. Our worms, our snails, they all live in this apartment, and they are going to feed on whatever they can find. So that black cow will be a long-term food source. We're also going to include a bit of dayflower. We love dayflower. We know that it will not live in here for the long term. It will die after maybe 6 months. But that's fine, because as it lives and grows and even begins to wilt and fail, it will act again as a food source for our pets. And all the while, it will be producing extra oxygen to help keep things rolling. I'm not going to get too artistic. I'm just going to kind of tuck the stems in here. These particular dayflower stems came from the $10 Nano Aquarium, which once you set something like that up, you have an everlasting source of dayflower. We trim it, and use the trimmings to build stuff like this. So right off the bat, I can see that there is some movement over here in the left side. If you look closely up there, you'll see some of the bladder snails moving around near the surface. And in my experience, if your bladder snails will not go down into the water, then there may be something wrong. If they stay up here near the surface, then typically there's something wrong with the water parameters, or things are just way too acidic. There's some reason that they're doing that. But we'll have to look a little deeper here in a moment. Now, up here at the top of the jar, I can look down and we can see that yes, we succeeded. We have some terrestrial life in here. Those little millipedes that we've seen in some of the previous projects are right there. And that makes me really happy. I really wanted to see them in here. Hopefully we have some springtails as well. And with the lights off and our flashlight in hand, you can really see what that water looks like. It is thriving green water. Yeah. And that means that these little algae spores, these little particles, little microbes, they're alive, but they will also produce oxygen. So our water column will be producing O2 to help power all of the animal life inside. And that is awesome. Ideally, all of these rocks would be covered in algae. In a perfect world, half of the glass would be covered in, live algae or live plant. But we'll get there eventually. As the tank settles into its new ecosystem, as the system settles into balance, we will have quite a beautiful tank here. If you look there in the middle, you'll see a few bladder snails are diving. They are moving around beneath the surface, and that's the sign that we wanted. So that shows me right there that we've done something right. We've created a project. They know that there's food down there. They can smell it. They can sense it. And that food is basically dirt that came in with the moss. They may also go after the black cow material, but in my experience, bladder snails of this size are not too interested in burrowing into the substrate. Now, when they are very small, when they are tiny little new hatchlings, they will go down into the dirt or gravel. So either way, we are loaded with food. We're loaded with oxygen-producing material, lots of life in here, and I think this is our best Paludarium yet. It looks amazing. I'm so happy with it. My only regret is that we did not put a few rocks up here on the land portion to give it a bit of a decor, a little bit of a decoration. But really, that's all going to be covered with plants eventually, so we won't see any of that stuff up top. Now, we're about 5 days after setup, and it's time to feed them. I'm going to throw a piece of cucumber in here, and we're about to seal up the jar. Now, I'm not too worried about that cucumber decomposing and releasing methane or anything, as the snails are going to eat every single scrap of cucumber. Our worms will help them, as well as the Ostracods, Copepods, and other pets inside. If they don't eat the cucumber itself, they will eat little bits that come off of it, bacteria or fungus that try to grow on the cucumber either way. I thought about super gluing this jar shut just to prove to you guys that, this is permanently sealed, but I don't want to do that. I always have this fear that one day we're going to see some amazing thing in one of our ecospheres, and we might want to open it and extract a sample. That hasn't happened yet, and I'm very hesitant to open an ecosphere. They are meant to remain sealed. But that's the project, guys. I hope that you love it as much as I do. This is our brand new Paludarium for 2024. Big thank you to our patrons, Clay Wise, Swansea, Jay, and Jeff Kiesner. Thank you for correcting me, Jeff. I am very sorry, my friend. Thank you for being cool about it. I hope that you enjoy the Paludarium. I hope that you guys have a great year. I'm so proud of this project. In the near future, as we go into 2024, we've established a schedule for bucket ponds, and that schedule is Sundays with BP. We're going to have a new video every Sunday, and I'm so happy to share this new year with you guys. We are growing at an insane rate, and I am just so happy. So thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share, and let me know what you think.